everybody, to Retirement Compass Radio Show with Stonebridge Wealth Systems. I do have Tim Kulhanek from the Lincoln office here in-house. Yeah. It's great to see you, and I know that there's lots of fun things to be done. It is a weekend, and you are a very busy parent of those little teeny tinies. So I know that you're busy.
I am.
Plus, we have football. All right. So let's talk about something that I think is kind of fun, because if people are going to really be living into their 90s or beyond or 100 years old, Kiplinger says those lifetime expectations have doubled since the 19th century. And that doesn't surprise me a bit.
Yeah.
You know, during the industrial times, people did not live that long. But
yeah.
So what are your current statistics, or what are your feelings on this longevity mindset?
Well, I think the first thing we have to realize is that this is kind of uncharted territories. We're experiencing something that's never happened before in history, where we've had an entire generation who's had to plan for retirement that had never occurred before. So it's uncharted territory.
Right.
Now, the baby boomer wave, the silver tsunami, started, over a decade ago, but it's been going on now for 15 years. And so, and it's got maybe another 4 or 5 years left. And these are people who, the front end of the baby boomers, are now reaching age 80 in this next year. And so a lot of them have been retired for 15 years. And if they live into their 90s, that could be another 10 to 15 years of retirement. And their parents didn't have to worry about that. One, they work for the same company for 30 years, retired, gold watch, pension, out the door, Social Security, that's all you need, go enjoy retirement. And now you've got this generation that, they got the Rubik's Cube, they got Have It Your Way jingle, they got Watergate, and they got the ERISA Act all in 1 year that totally changed the rules on the playing field. It's as if, you'd played the game a certain way the whole time, and then the Northwestern refs show up and they start calling pass interference when it doesn't exist. They start saying, oh, actually, even though he caught the ball at the 26, we're going to put it at the 25, things that don't actually apply to the game. And you got to figure out, well, how do I overcome these challenges? That's kind of where we're at right now, where, if you assume, which is the proper way to do financial planning, that somebody is going to need their money to last 20, 30 years, you need to make sure you're using the right tools, strategies, and, techniques that are actually going to achieve that longevity, because the pensions went the way of the T-Rex.
They did, of the dodo bird and all those things. Or did they revive the dodo bird? Well, it's interesting. I was just noting, Tim, a statistic today that the obesity rate in the United States is going down for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, I don't believe that, but okay.
Because of the GLP-1 drugs.
Okay, well, fair enough. But, people's habits aren't changing, is what I would argue then.
I think you're right about that.
It's just that they just have this injection thing. But, I don't know. We don't want to make this about GLP. I don't know issue if you're using GLP.
No.
But the reality is, the reason I even engage with this is because it's a discussion on habits.
Yes.
And, there isn't a GLP financial drug. Okay, there's nothing you can be like, I can continue to spend recklessly, run money, that I don't have, blow it on credit cards, and then I just get this miracle, this panacea, the silver bullet, and all of those problems go away. It takes extreme discipline. That's why we were talking about the baby boom generation just a second ago. Let's go back to them where, we'll pull this up at the break, but I think last time I checked, it's somewhere around 30 or 40% of them have zero savings, right? They have nothing. I think it's closer to 40 than it is 30, and it could be higher. That's been the thing for years since this tsunami started, that, hey, by the way, 1 out of every 2 or 3 doesn't have any money for retirement. And so there is no GLP, there's no Ozempic financial version of that. And so it does take discipline, and it does take making sure that think about it this way.
Okay.
If you're younger and you're listening to this, let that be a lesson to you. Like, hey, it's going to take me. I can't rely on anybody else. I need to be saving money diligently. Most people, though, that listen to the show, and we know because we get the calls, right? We meet with the folks. They're retirement age or pre-retirees. And if you're thinking, oh, well, do I have enough to retire? Well, that makes you normal. First of all, 3 questions people ask. When can I retire? Will my money last as long as I need it to? Will my family be okay if something happens to me? That's literally the questions that we answer every single day here at our office. And the reason why that's so critical is because everybody's everybody's financial situation is unique to what their goals, their purpose, their why, their what, the picture that they have painted in their mind's eye of what a successful, comfortable retirement looks like. And so our job isn't to say, you've got to have $1 million or you've got to have $2 million or you can't afford to retire. That's just not true, because you might be able to live comfortably on $5,000 a month. And if $4,000 comes from Social Security, we only need $1,000 a month net of taxes. And like, if you've done a good job saving, we could probably accomplish that pretty easily, but we don't know unless we run the numbers. But let's say that you heard that and you're like, oh, well, but I don't know if I have enough. And so I'm just going to, procrastinate. Well, let's say that you came in and met with one of our experienced advisors and they confirmed your fears. Yeah, you don't have enough. You're not ready to retire. Well, now that opens up all these other solutions. This is the closest thing I can get to a GLP for you is, but here's the thing. If we make some adjustments over here, like I'm in the middle of changing around my homeowners insurance, which is disgustingly expensive in Nebraska. Nebraska is the number one most expensive state for homeowners insurance this year.
Golly.
Louisiana, I'm told, is catching us. So please catch us, let us fall back. I want to be last in that category. But it's so expensive. Well, it's going to save me a couple $1,000. Well, that's a couple $1,000 that I can maybe put somewhere else. Maybe I look at your tax return and I see that you're getting a tax return refund of $5,000 a year. Well, you're just giving the government an interest-free loan. Let's stop doing that. I just found $7,000. I just fully funded your Roth IRA. Oh, but I'm 50. Well, now we just got to find another $1,000 for the catch-up contribution, and we've got the full Roth IRA taken care of. Maybe it's you're putting money in a 401k, but you think you're maxing it out because you're putting $23,500 in, but you don't realize that there's not only catch-up contributions at age 50, but at certain ages, I think it's like 60, 61, 62, maybe 63, there's what we call super catch-up contributions that instead of being $7,500 could be like $11,250, something in that category, that range. But again, I don't have to have the exact numbers. I know that it exists, but if you don't, that would be a reason why you'd want to give us a call. And Jackie will give you a number here in a second and find out, A, where am I at on my road to retirement? Am I on a good path? Can I kind of coast? Or do I need to like double down on my saving habits, maybe re-examine the budget and the spending plan and make sure that I'm not dripping nickels, so to speak, overpaying by like I have been, admittedly. Like I'm a financial advisor. I'm admitting that I discovered that I was overpaying for my homeowner's insurance by $2,000 a year. But I'm fixing it. So I'm taking action to change my circumstances to better suit my purposes, and that's what I'm employing all of our listeners to do as well.
Use this number to reach out to Stonebridge Wealth Systems and get on the schedule. Heaven's sakes, 866-295-5146. We do the whole show just to maybe plant a seed in your mind that it is, doable. It is. You are retirable. 866-295-5146. Let the experienced advisor show you some things at no cost and no obligation. 866-295-5146. Now, Tim, I was trying to make a point about the GLP-1 drugs, okay? And I'm glad you went with it and everything. But
I loved it, actually.
Me too. So it's a paradigm shift. We don't have reduced obesity rates because people have gotten healthier, right? It's because of this thing, right? So this is a paradigm shift, right? We're getting skinnier not because we're eating better. So that's kind of that's what's going to happen, I feel, in the years to come with AI, because people are not just now investing in AI, but they're using AI, of course, in all walks of life. But we're going to be faced with weird things like that going forward. Don't you agree?
I do. And like the concern is, and this is like we said this years ago, and we said it kind of with, tongue in cheek, wink and a grin was, oh gosh, have you seen the movie Idiocracy? What if we ended up like that?
Here we are.
I mean, when we let the machines do all of our thinking for us, kind of on that path. And so, like, the concern, it creates challenges and opportunities. The opportunity for somebody like me and for our team of advisors is there's going to be less people that actually understand how to explain things, and they're going to rely on a machine. Ooh. And there's still going to be plenty of people who want a human touch. Like, I don't want a machine giving me a massage. Like, there's certain things like
I've seen that video. Weird.
Like okay, maybe sometimes, but like I want to make sure that it's somebody that I can like talk to that's not going to decide to just randomly choke me out. Like Like you see these things online, and it's this robot, and it's like, how do you stop it from
going mad? Yeah.
Squeezing your jugular at 3 a.m. because it's like gone crazy. And so, I think you're right. It's a paradigm shift. There needs to be a paradigm shift in financial planning from going just kind of be a passenger in just doing the things that everyone's always done. Like I said this on the TV show the other day. I said, do you know why the railroad tracks are at the gauge that they're at as far as the distance apart? So because the people who built the railroads, or designed the railroads, I should say, in America are the same ones that designed them over in Europe. They're expats, British expats that came over, and they had designed like the Amtrak and railway over there, whatever. And so they just used the same model. Well, why did they use that model back then? Well, because, that's the way that, if you go all the way back in history, that the Roman Empire had designed the chariots that they had, and that's how wide the wheelbase was. And so that's where the ruts were. And the reason that they designed the wheelbase the way they did is because that's how much space they needed for two horses' big butts to not knock into one another. So, change is hard. That we've done things the same way for so long, and usually the answer is, when you answer the question, well, why do you do it that way? Because we've always done it that way. But why would we use a 20th century or 14th century solution for a 21st century problem? And that's what I'm trying to encourage people to rethink, that paradigm shift. Like, maybe there's some other things I could be doing versus what I've been doing since I got hired at age 21 and started putting money in the 401k. That would get me closer to my goals. That's a reason why people would want to give us a call and find the answer to that question out.
866-295-5146, 866-295-5146.
Is your retirement being eaten up by financial termites like hidden fees, inflation, and avoidable taxes? Call today for a complimentary financial review so we can help you root out these retirement killers.
Hey, welcome back to the show. This is the Stonebridge Wealth Systems show called Retirement Compass Radio Show. It's rare that I just get you only. Last show we had Eli Marduk, just he and I, and sometimes it's Jeff Gove and I. But Tim, how's it going?
It's going fine, Jackie.
Good.
It's just great.
It's interesting times that we're living in. I want to bring up a couple of these items for you.
Please do.
In the last segment, we were talking about a paradigm shift for pre-retirees and retirees and how we're going to do things, because not just are we still in the peak 65, people turning 65 years old, right, and filing for their Medicare at 65 and wanting to get into retirement. But we're also going through something where there may not be as many jobs and as many people retiring. If you consider the AI current predictions, for example, the big layoffs at Amazon, last week, and also at all over the place, Walmart, Amazon, UPS, they're ditching people for R&D in AI. So think about that. They're losing human jobs and using that money for R&D for AI. So those jobs may not ever come back at the mid-management level and production level and so on and so forth. So will there be enough people to retire from a population after this current population? Do you see where I'm going?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, how do we continue to provide things like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, pay the interest on the debt? This is where my mind goes. If there's not people working and paying in taxes, right? And it includes FICA tax, which is what supports roughly 80%, 77, 78% of Social Security payments. So one of the things that's been brought up, this kind of just following your lead here.
Sure.
According to David McKnight, New York Times bestselling author, if the U.S. government were to implement a universal basic income, UBI, when I say UBI, don't confuse that with UBL. UBL was Osama bin Laden.
Or UBS.
UBS is another company. Okay. UBI is Universal Basic Income. Andrew Yang brought this to the forefront during the 2020, I think it was, Democratic presidential
that's right. The math
primaries.
Guy. Yes.
And he said we need to have a dividend, a basic income for everybody. But Dave McKnight found that a $12,000 per year $12,000 per adult per year universal basic income would cost annually $3.1 trillion. And now if that's on top of Social Security, that's more expensive than what we pay on Social Security. So it's like, let's just say it's like doubling the Social Security
Debt.
payouts.
Oh, okay.
Well, annual payouts.
All right.
Well, the problem with that is, the government brings in like $4.9 to $5 trillion a year, and you'd be overspending just on Social Security and UBI. You'd be overspending, like it's right now we're spending like $1.1 trillion on interest debt service, just
Right.
interest payments alone. So you're basically eating up the entire federal budget. Well, what happens if fewer people are working to that federal budget? Well, what we just said, see how it's circular?
Yes.
Now you're chasing your tail because it's like, oh, well, we can at least cover some of it. Well, you can cover less of it now because you pay the UBI. There's less people that are going to be motivated to work that can work.
Oh,
And so it kind of just turns into a
that's madness.
debt/death spiral. But here's from Visual Capitalist, which is a website that puts sometimes complex and difficult to understand concepts into illustrations that, for a lot of people, especially if you're a visual learner, makes sense. And it's called the top 40 jobs most exposed to AI, according to Microsoft. And like, I don't know if you can see this, Jackie. It's got these different bubbles on here.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Sure
And
enough.
the bubbles represent like the number of people in those fields.
Okay.
And then the higher up on like the y-axis is it's more exposed. Overall AI applicability score. And it says Microsoft studied which jobs are most exposed to AI replaceability by analyzing 200,000 anonymized Bing Copilot chats.
Okay.
So, most exposed, interpreters and translators is actually at the top of the list. Because it's like,
yes.
well, it's just my phone can do that now.
My phone can do that. Thank you very much.
Historians, not history teachers, which is kind of interesting, but historians, but sales representatives, customer service representatives, that's 2.9 million U.S. employees are some sort of customer service, and probably it's larger than that is what this is suggesting, but it's pretty high on the list. Tool programmers, telephone operators, ticket agents, travel clerks, brokerage clerks, telemarketers is kind of middle of the road. The least exposed, geographers, obviously like construction, any blue collar type work, HVAC techs, public safety, telecommunicators. So they've got, I mean, they've got it pretty detailed and segregated as far as exactly what these people are doing. Market research analysts, hosts and hostesses. Again, nobody wants, yeah, you're a host, right? But nobody wants like some robot greeting them at, like, you think of like the Ritz-Carlton type of experience, and it's supposed to be white glove. And you get out and this like weird looking mummy styled like robot. Welcome. We're glad to have you. Like, I know what you're going to try to do. Like, you're going to try to break into my room tonight, aren't you?
Right.
So, why is this important? Because like, you might have to relearn and do something different. And not everybody has, like, there's health conditions. We're talking about, are we getting healthier? No, we're just using some sort of paradigm shift cheat code.
Right.
So not everybody is fit or suited for that more blue collar type work. There's only so many jobs. Who's going to have the income to make the purchases? So I guess the point of all this is, for younger people, you have to be open to change. And for retirees, you have to realize that, like, when people make predictions or forecasts for what they think the market's going to do, or, you know, what they think, you know, the average return for the S&P 500 will be for the next 10 years, understand that they're doing that with the information we have today. But if I asked you like 5 years ago, would you be able to go to a web page and have a prospectus for a new stock offering put together in less than 5 minutes, and it's 150 pages long? You'd be like, well, no, like that takes a team of 5, at least 2 weeks.
Right. That's right.
That's not the case anymore. So like, technology and our economy is changing so quickly. You have to realize that you have to be able to adapt and, again, not use those same old tools that maybe worked in a different environment. They might not work in the future. Keep an open mind. Don't be closed-minded so much that you like refuse to even consider new alternatives or approaches to achieving your goals.
It's really important that you have someone like Tim and all of the guys and gals on the team at Stonebridge Wealth Systems, because they're so well researched on these subject matters to do with the future of retirement planning. 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. We're always going to be thinking about the stages, though, right? The accumulation mode. We want to preserve the money. We want to distribute it, but we also want to go out and have a good time, which you and I have talked about so many times. For retirees, you don't want to be stuck in the accumulation preservation phases for your retirement. So for the current retirees who are retiring soon or in the next few years, let's not forget to secure the money and make sure that your income sources are going to be reliable in the new world, in the new environment, in the robot land. I mean, we got to have a new robot every year. So I wonder how much those are going to cost.
80 to 150, I'd say. But I mean, that's why, again, you have to be open to other approaches because like I just got off the phone this morning with a gentleman, and he's like, well, I am 66 now or 65 now. He'll be 66 in, I think, January. But he said, I still feel like I need to be in saver mode. And, I've run his plan. He's a client of mine, and I'm like, he doesn't need to save anymore. He could retire today easily. And I told him, I said, your income's going to be higher in retirement than it is while you're working.
Oh
because
my.
when you kick on your Social Security, it's going to be double what your W-2 wage is. And so, like, I know that, like, there's like a groove in your brain that's been, like, worn back and forth that says, save, save, save. I have to save. We've got to find a way to reprogram NLP or whatever we need to do into more of a decumulation, because whether you like it or not, here in a few years, if you're going to be 66, you've got 7 years, and then they're going to force you to start taking money out. And like, whether you want to or not, that involves liquidation of your resources, of some of your holdings. It involves tax payments that are going to be forced. And it could be at a time where, tax rates are, substantially higher than they are right now. So, like, let's start brainstorming how you can start spending some of this money. He's like, well, maybe I need to go on some vacations. I said, you do, but, like, take people with you. Don't be afraid to spend your money as long as you test it against your plan. So what we do, we use a planning software that's pretty intuitive, and it's like, hey, what do you want to actually do? Do you want a vacation budget of $10,000 a year, or do you want to take the whole family and you want to be able to spend $20,000 a year for the next 10 years, and then after that, maybe it trails off and it's more simple trips. Right. So we build that in, and we just test to see if it'll work. And if the answer is like, hey, you're at 95% with $20,000, and then you're like, well, what if I spent $30,000 and it goes to 65%? Well, okay. Maybe you're not comfortable with that. Maybe we want to stay above an 85% probability of success. But that's the beautiful thing about the approach that I think we use is analogous to, like, when you go to the eye doctor, if everybody still goes to the eye doctor. And, like, they used to use, these little flipper things that they flip back and forth, and now they just push a button on the computer. But they'll say, is this one
is this clear or is that clear?
1 or 2? Right. And that's really the approach we use with financial planning, is which one feels right to you, which one allows you to see that vision as clearly as possible. And that's, again, what we try to do for every family that we help. We're excited to help more people when they hear this message.
Well, we certainly hope so. Feel free to use this centralized number that we've put together for the radio show. So depending on where you would like to be seen, or et cetera, across, Nebraska, anywhere in the Midwest, really. And Stonebridge has clients all over the United States. 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. Just give a call.
As Americans, we strive for better. From a better house to a better career to a better life for our children and grandchildren. Better has become the American way. When it comes to your retirement, what does better mean to you? Does it mean more income, a flexible lifestyle, better solutions? A better retirement begins with a financial plan. To get your complimentary written financial plan, call the number you see here. You only retire once. This is your opportunity to plan for better.
So glad to have you here on Retirement Compass Radio Show with Stonebridge Wealth Systems. We also have a YouTube channel, and you can just go to YouTube and then enter in Stonebridge Wealth Systems, and you can see a repeat of the program. We also post this in podcast form all over the darn place. The Retirement Compass is the name of the podcast, The Retirement Compass, wherever you get your podcasts, all right? All right. So, Mr. Kulhanek, I was thinking about, since we already touched upon distribution and going out and having fun with the money that people have saved. The distribution phase can be a very tricky thing because, like you said, it's a groove. It's like the old Roman roads across half of Great Britain. You know, they're like a foot deep because that's where the gosh darn horse carts and chariots would take the supplies into, you know, for the furthest reaches of the world as part of the Roman Empire. And that's a very hard habit to break, is the saving. So I really want to encourage people to take that step and to talk to someone and let Stonebridge test this against where it is, you know, you want to go, getting you where you want to go in your retirement years. And the lifestyle and the legacy, maybe that's where people are stuck in the rut, Tim, in the road, is because they're heck bent on having a legacy for their kids and grandkids. And they're like, well, if we spend it, there'll be nothing left for them.
Yeah, I thought Zach framed this really well in a meeting with a prospective client the other day. They said, hey, one of our goals is to make sure we leave as much as we can to our kids. He goes, well, what does that mean?
Right.
You know, like, how serious is that goal?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty serious. He said, okay, where is it between I want my check to the undertaker to bounce and I'm not eating for the next month because I want to make sure that there's more money left for my kids?
Mm-hmm.
And I think he said something effective. He's like, well, I don't need to eat that much, you know? So
wow.
Suggesting that, like, it is obviously it
very
tells
important.
Us it's very important. And so then we start saying, okay, well, that's a huge clue. Thank you. That is really helpful because, like, if what you have experienced maybe with other financial, meetings you've had is just, let me see your statements. Let's look at your rate of return. Oh, you did 7%. You should have done 9%. You're doing everything wrong. And but we're the hero in this story and we can fix it. Like, well, what is it doing for you? What if your goal isn't to maximize just the growth, but to get it to the people, places, organizations, and entities that you love and care about? And so let me give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
I had someone in the other day, and she didn't have any children, so her plan is to leave a certain dollar amount to her 3 nieces and nephews. Let's say it's like $50,000 to each of them, which is very generous.
Yeah.
And then everything else goes to charitable organizations. But the way her estate plan is set up is, you know, it goes to her, everything goes to her estate. So she's like, I just want to make this easy.
Oh.
So my 401k goes to my estate. My IRA goes to my estate. My brokerage account goes to my estate. Checking, savings, CDs, all of it flows into the estate. Well, the reason I found a problem with that is a few reasons. One, you're making everything a estate asset and therefore subject to the probate process.
Oh.
So, like, you could just do a beneficiary designation form. Like, let's look at her 401k, for example. The entire thing is going to go to a charity because it's a great type of money to send to charity because it's tax deferred to her. If she takes it out, it's taxable as income. If the charity takes it out, it's tax free to them. And so if it's already going to go to this charitable organization, why would we knock a couple percent or 1.5%, whatever it might be, of the value off the top due to the probate process costs, slow the process down by 12 to 14 months? If we could just designate directly to the charitable organization on a beneficiary designation form, it's a 2-page form, and be much more efficient. And so, like, yes, I know that doesn't pertain exactly to leaving more money to children. The point is, it's a better mechanism to get money from one generation to the next than saying, oh, I'm just going to run it all through this will, this estate, because then the estate has to set up an estate-owned inherited 401k, an estate-owned inherited IRA. It's a big pain in the rear end, honestly, and it could be so much simpler. And if, for whatever reason, you know, things get slowed down and the estate has to take an RMD and it doesn't get distributed to the remainder beneficiaries, well, now there's more taxes because this estate and trust tax rates those brackets reach the top income tax rate of 37% at like $15,550 versus several $100,000 for individuals. So like there's so many things we see from day to day, from week to week that we're like, hey, man, we could really, really help this. And that doesn't even touch on the fact that Nebraska has an inheritance tax and nieces and nephews are more distant relatives. So they get like, I can't remember, it's $50,000 exempt. And then it's maybe an 11 or 12% tax on top of that.
My.
Well, that's pretty big, right? That's a problem. So if it's $50,000 that she's going to leave them, it's no problem. But what if it was $500,000 or $250,000? It's not necessary because we could get the money in a more efficient way. For example, like using life insurance or some other tool. So it all goes back to what I've been saying throughout the show. It's like a common theme. I've been saying, hey, we got to stop using 20th century solutions to 21st century problems. There are better tools available than what you maybe did when you set this up in 2002. Does that make sense?
It sure does. Sure. By the way, there's a new feature that Stonebridge has. It is stonebridgelegacy.net. Should you like to hop on there, it's a very nice little tool they have set up. Stonebridgelegacy.net to see how it's kind of a landing page and a cute little tool, right? At the same time. Otherwise, the phone number for Stonebridge is 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. Now, you're using the same person as an example, or those who are listening right now. Well, I just have it set this way, and I think that this is simpler. How do we make that stretch from, this is simpler, doing it just the old-fashioned way, to really it needs to be modernized, what you're considering?
I mean, it's the inertia, effectively, right? The ball's no longer rolling. I already did that. I don't want to have to redo that.
That's right.
But the reality is life is dynamic, so planning has to be dynamic. Things change, objectives shift, beneficiaries can change, right? Because relationships can change. And so I think it's one of the more difficult challenges that I face, if I'm being completely honest, is how do you motivate people to take action to improve their station in life? Because they're like, well, I see how it would save me some money, but it's not that much money. It's like, well, it's going to save you like $3,000-4,000 a year in taxes.
My golly.
Well, yeah, but then I'd have to, change everything. Well, not really. Like I'm going to do most of the work for you,
Right.
You just kind of, it goes back to the analogy I used to give of how retirement planning is a lot like planning a big trip where you try to do it on your own. And you just like argue with your spouse on where you're going to go, what you're going to do, how long you're going to be there, where you're going to stay, what you're going to eat. And then you bring in a professional, let's say, like a travel agent or something like that, and they sit down at a table. They ask you a few questions. They write a bunch of notes. They say, okay, this is helpful. This is what I needed. Give me a week and a half, and I'll put this whole thing together. I'll have a package for you in 10 days. 10 days later, they come back, they sit across the table, they open a binder, they slide it across the table, they open it up, they say, here's where you're going, here's when you're leaving, here's where I need you to be at what time, here's where your connection flights are, here's who's going to pick you up, here's the sign they're going to have, here's where you're going to stay, here's what you're going to do, here's where you're going to eat, like everything, you have a full itinerary, right? And then they tell you at the end, they're like, look, as long as you can read and follow instructions, you guys are going to have a great time. And this is going to be the trip of a lifetime. And that's really how we try to frame retirement planning is, look, I get that there's a lot of work, but you don't have to go it alone. Like, that's what we do. We're your travel guide through retirement, guiding you to and through the retirement that you've been hoping for and dreaming of. And we like the retirement compass is designed to cover all those different areas. Here's where your income is going to come from. Here's how you're going to minimize your tax bill. Here's what your plan for Medicare. Here's your plan for long-term care. Here's your plan for the estate and the legacy and leaving money and who and how. Like all of it is spelled out in this portfolio, if you will, that we slide across the table.
That's nice.
And at the end of the day, as long as you can read and follow instructions, you're going to have a great time.
You'll have a great time on your trip to and through retirement. 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. Use that number to reach out to Stonebridge Wealth Systems. And even if there are some wobbles along the way, right? With this, it's not a set it and forget it in this notebook that you've given us. There are, because inflation could affect things, interest rates. I mean, there are, human concerns as well. So you do meet with folks on a a regular basis, should they need to, right?
Let me just give you an example. Sometimes people come in and they say, Tim, I just want a plan. I'm a DIY. I want a plan. I want you to show me what to do. Tell me how to do it, and I'll implement it on my own somehow. The problem with that, like, let's say that on July 1st, you came in and I delivered your plan, and we'd been meeting since April or May, worked through everything, found out, when you wanted to retire, what you wanted to do when you retire, where you wanted to live when you retire, who you wanted to spend your time with, where you wanted to travel, what your goals are as far as estate and legacy and concerns about healthcare. Like, we've got it all, A to Z, soup to nuts. The whole plan is comprehensive and holistic. It's a balanced, approach to retirement. That's July 1st. July 4th, the president signs the One Big Beautiful Bill Act and totally overhauls the U.S. tax code, tax system, brackets, phase outs, phase ins, gives, take backs, standard deductions, 65 plus, phase outs, SALT caps, like all this stuff changed. And all of a sudden, the 22% tax bracket essentially evaporates for people who are 65 plus, because now they get into this phase out range where, if you did that conversion, it was going to cost you 22%. We'll call it an EMR, effective marginal rate. It's now 24.24%. Like, that's the challenge that trying to do this, like, set it and forget it, just give me a plan and I'll walk out the door. Like, the beauty of the plan is that you get us. Like, because our job is to monitor these things so you can focus on the things that actually matter. Like, not some like, hey, here's a free report, kick you out the door and wish you the best. It's about, hey, we're going to walk through you side by side, shoulder to shoulder through this, unknown, uncharted water and get you safely home. That's what our advisors are trained to do.
866-295-5146. Call Stonebridge. Do it today. Stonebridge Wealth Systems, 866-295-5146.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter, the one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Hey, welcome back to the show. It is Retirement Compass Radio Show with Stonebridge Wealth Systems. I've got Tim Kulhanek in the Lincoln office for just a little while longer here, and I have some questions for you, Tim. Sometimes these things are too uncomfortable, too personal, or people feel awkward about bringing things up with a financial advisor. Because we're such gosh darn independent people, aren't we? Especially on the plains. We're like, nope, we came here, we're farming generation after generation. We don't need any help doing anything.
Yeah.
So how do you crack that code to get people into a good retirement plan? Is it the tax angle that gets them interested?
You mean to get people to unhitch the plow and take action, start moving forward?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of things. If I'm being candid, it can be a little bit of a gendered type thing.
Okay.
It might sound weird, but if you watch what the dynamic at some of our workshops when I'm at the front speaking, you'll notice that usually they're both listening, but if there's something I bring up that is especially important, hey, U.S. government just started spending more money on interest payments than they do on national defense for the first time in history. We need to be prepared for the potential for substantially higher taxes in the future. And that's not just me saying that. That's former Comptroller General U.S. Government Accountability Office, David Walker. That's the, Penn Wharton budget model, all these different examples. They might, both kind of nod. The man might kind of nod, but the wife will be like shoot a look, and you can see like, what are we doing to actually prepare for this? And the conversation that probably occurs in the car is, what are we doing to actually prepare for this? We need to go. We need a plan, you know? So sometimes it's like, it takes, and a lot of times this has shifted over the years. It used to be that men usually handled the finances. That's not the case near at all anymore. Like just the other day, a couple was in there and he goes, it's like, how much you guys spend every month? And he's like, oh, like 7,000-8,000. And she goes,
You're funny.
no.
Yeah, that's
He's like,
hilarious.
oh, I don't know. She pays the bills. And she's like, 10 to 11, depending on the month.
And then he shoots her a look back. What?
Yeah, right. And so that's why when people come in, I try to make sure, like, if you're married or have a SO, significant other, I want you both here. Because what I don't want to have happen, we've had this happen even just recently. Oh, no, she's not interested in any of this. She doesn't want to be here. And then she shows up for the second appointment where we present all our findings, and she's like, well, but this is great, except for the fact that none of it's accurate.
Oh, dear.
We never talked about that. This wasn't what we said. That's not how much we have in that account, you know?
Golly.
And what about my money? What about this? What about leaving money to the kids?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why sometimes like it really takes a team approach.
Sure.
And so that's one of the reasons why we do not just workshops. We do radio, we do TV, because you can get the message out to a broader spectrum of people, because the people that go to a workshop might not listen to the radio. The people that listen to the radio show might not be watching, ABC or Fox on Saturday or Sunday morning.
Truly, that's the case. Well, I like that. I'm going to write that down. That's why we do all of this, because you want to cover the spectrum and to grab the folks. Stonebridge, the phone number that we have set up for the radio show here, 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. Please use the number and reach out to Stonebridge, and then you can get an appointment wherever it is you live or want to be seen, whether it's Kearney, Grand Island. Tim is in the Lincoln office, and also Omaha office, which is going well. Gosh, it's been a whole year since that office has been open.
It's in like 2.
Is it already?
Yeah.
Boy,
at
does
least
that time
2.
go by.
Yeah.
That's crazy. All right, we're talking about some uncomfortable, maybe awkward things that people may not want to discuss with you, and I'm sure you have some reflection on this. But what about if I have, or my spouse has a diagnosis of dementia?
Yeah, I mean,
That's hard to talk about.
it is.
It's so heartbreaking, isn't it?
Yeah, it is and it isn't, because it's one of those things that kind of makes itself known, whether, with enough time. And like, you got to prepare for it if it happens. And it's why, planning on the front end before you have some sort of chronic health condition is so
whether
important.
it's that or cancer or anything else.
Yeah, but like the dementia one is especially kind of insidious, because it not only changes your relationship with that person in the sense that you sometimes gets to the point where you no longer are able to have the conversations you're used to with them, and it breaks your heart. But also in the sense that, like, financially it can be devastating, because they're not, people can live for years with cognitive impairment. And so, like, what I look for in opportunities when people come in, so this couple that came in recently, we asked, do you have any life insurance? And they're like, yeah, but we don't need more life insurance. We're good. We're 65 years old. Like, we don't need more life insurance.
Right.
And sure, you don't, but you said you do have some now, right? Yeah, these old whole life policies are like $60,000 death benefit, but there's like $45,000 in cash value in there. So, and okay, why did you take those policies out? Because the people that sold it to us 35 years ago said that it was going to grow to this huge amount, and then it never happened, and they misrepresented it. So I wasn't really happy with how that happened. But you know what? It'll go to the kids, and that's just fine. Okay. And I love that conversation, and I don't really need to take it further than that in the first meeting.
Okay.
But here's what happens behind the scenes. I look at those policies and I say, okay, there's $45,000 in cash value here. The death benefit's $65,000. The net amount at risk is $20,000. This is the difference between the death benefit and the cash, because the insurance company doesn't pay out both. They don't give you the 65 plus the 45. They give you just the 65. They keep the 45.
All right.
So they were only on the hook for a $20,000 liability. That's the net amount at risk. So what I look at doing is repurposing that and saying, what if we took that $45,000 and used it as a down payment on another life insurance policy that's designed to do the same thing. If you die 30 years from now peacefully in your sleep, having never needed any sort of assistance, this money's just going to go tax-free to your beneficiaries.
Great. That was their goal.
That was their goal. But if you do need some sort of assistance, whether it's a physical or a cognitive impairment, you can start drawing on the death benefit, to the tune of, if we probably have to put a little bit more of a cash infusion in, but not much. It might be like $5,000 a year or $7,000 a year. It could, depending on how much cash value you have, for 10 years, right? So it's an affordable amount. It's not the same thing as paying for traditional long-term care where you pay $5,000-$10,000 a year and you get nothing back. This is life insurance. So you never have to battle with the psychological aspect of paying for something that you hope you never need, because it's life insurance. You're going to use it eventually. And so we repurpose these policies, and all of a sudden we create an environment where, hey, by the way, by the time you're 85, if you need any sort of assistance, there's going to be $11,000, $12,000 a month tax-free available to you to use for any sort of assistance you need, whether that's in-home, assisted living, a facility, any kind. It's tax-free, $11,000 a month. And that lasts for, let's say, we can design it however we want, but that might be 4, 5, 6 year benefit period. Oh. Now, the average claim period for a man is like 2.2 years and a woman is like 3.7. So usually I try to do about a 4 to 5 year policy, depending on family history and things like that. But now we've created an environment where instead of just being mad about this old product we purchased that didn't work out the way we wanted it to, we've maximized its utility for our unique circumstances, because now if I have that cognitive impairment you brought up, I can supervise the care. I don't have to provide it. And that's a much better place to be than, crisis management, trying to figure out, okay, who can help me? Where do I put them? And how do I make sure that they're safe? And it breaks your heart. Here, there's a game plan in place because you took the time on the front end, like I said, to make sure that things were in order for when or if something happened.
That's a motivating factor, boy. 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146, because we're all going through it in some way, shape, or form. People my age are seeing their parents go through it, or their siblings, or extended family, and so on. It's such a pervasive situation, and long-term healthcare risks are not limited to dementia. I really, that's so eloquent the way you put it. Before we get out of here, Tim, for this segment, I wanted to touch on something else that's a little bit touchy for some people, and that is how to say no to adult children who have needs. And here you are, pre-retirement or a retiree, and these people either keep coming home, or they stick you with their children, or they're asking for money so they can buy a home or whatever it is. How do you kind of protect yourself from this ruining your retirement?
Really tough. I've got clients that I work with that when I first met with them, their plan looked awesome. And now it doesn't, and it's almost exclusively because the bank of mom and dad never closed. And I can't imagine being in that position. I look at my children today, and it's like I would do anything for them.
Of course.
And at the same time, it's tragic because these people, it's almost that airline analysis or analogy where it's put your own mask on first, because if you pass out, you're not any help to your, child that's with you or whatever. Mm-hmm. Well, here, these people have said, here, let me save you. I'll throw you the life preserver, even though I don't have the stamina to swim back to shore.
Oh, golly.
And it's a problem because, some of these folks, it's not one adult child, it's multiple. So-and-so's going through a divorce and needs help.
Yes.
He needs an attorney. He wants to make sure that he can continue to, have some sort of shared custody with his children. And then so-and-so lost their job, or so-and-so's wanting to move, or so-and-so just never really blossomed and still lives in our basement. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot more common than you think. And I wish I had the answer, right? I wish I had here's what you do though. You just say no,
Right.
like the dare,
Right.
broken record thing back in the pace in the day in elementary school. But here's what I can tell you, just real quick, is
Sure.
regardless of what the situation is, like there's solutions, there's hope to try to put together a plan where, maybe if you're worried about running out of money, maybe we need to set up some sort of income stream that you can't outlive. And, this temporary type of situation where you're helping your kids, this too shall pass type of a thing, but use the right tool for the right situation. And sometimes for those folks, it's actually a detriment to them to have access to just all their money because they just blow it. So maybe we should instead set up some sort of safeguards or guardrails in place that says, hey, you're going to have the income you need, but it's going to be paid out on a monthly basis and it's guaranteed for both your lifetimes. There are types of tools that will do that, and we can share more about that when you give us a call.
Great. Build a fence around it. Call Stonebridge, 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146.
Did you ever think your retirement would be shared with our government? It's true. Your traditional 401k, IRA, pension, or similar retirement accounts are like a partnership with the IRS. Simply put, they want their tax dollars, and you have them. With our latest tax calculator, you can plug in your own numbers while sitting at home. To find out what your future tax liability could be, scan the QR code or go to stonebridgetaxbill.com.
Hey, welcome back to the show. This is Retirement Compass Radio Show, of course, with Stonebridge Wealth Systems, and I've got Tim Kulhanek in the Lincoln office. You can be seen wherever it is you are, all the way across the Midwest. You just place one phone call at 866-295-5146, and you can call upon a very experienced advisor to meet with you. How about this, Tim? I was thinking that 7 out of 10 people don't even have a household budget. Now, is this endemic of the entire planning for retirement picture in general? 7 out of 10 people, or maybe the 3 out of 10 will have a plan with a professional? What do you find here?
I would say that is kind of familiar to me, that kind of jives with what I've experienced.
All right.
But I'm more interested in a spending plan than a true budget. Because sometimes, like, people see budgets as restrictive, right?
That's
it's like
so
it's something
true.
that's cutting them off.
Yes.
And so when we develop a plan, it's not like, you ask people, oh, what do you guys spend every month? And they always just tell you, like, their electric bill. And they're like, oh, I guess it's like $200 is basically what we spend. It's like, well, I don't think so.
Not in the winter.
Let's look at what you're actually spending, like what the cash outflows are. And then let's add to that what you want to be able to spend. Like, don't be constrained by what you think you can do. Let's see what is possible for you to do. Because a lot of people think they'll have to work till they're 75. Or a lot of people think that they'll never be able to retire. A lot of people think that, they'll spend all their money in healthcare or something like that, or that they'll get wiped out by a long-term care, extended care event. But that's not always the case. Sometimes we test these plans and we're like, actually, you could self-insure, or you could use this other strategy that's probably a little bit more efficient. You could actually afford to retire at 67 instead of 75 like you were thinking. And here's why. I don't want to just tell people and, again, rely on a computer. I can show them why in the details. I'm going to say, here's where your Social Security is going to come in. Here's how much it's going to be, because we're going to optimize it by allowing her to file early. And that's going to allow you to max out your savings to your Roth accounts through those backdoor Roth contributions we've been talking about. And the reason we're having her file early is because she's 4 years younger than you, and your benefit's much higher, and the survivor keeps the higher of the two, but not both. So we want to maximize yours. So yeah, you continue, since you're working, you got some income, you continue to work till 67 or 68, whatever you feel is what you want to do, and delay that Social Security. So that way, by the time you retire, you'll have, $70,000 a year from Social Security alone. You need 110. We're within a stone's throw. We're getting the majority of that knocked out with Social. Like, you can see like how our process works just by how I'm explaining it. And all of a sudden, people, you can see their eyes start to kind of light up, and they realize, man, I had way too big of a pessimistic type of view of what this, what was really possible.
And I think sometimes that's because we talk to our neighbors or talk to the guy down at the lodge or the gym or somewhere else. It's like, oh, my dad did that, and he, right? So it's good to have, a meeting with someone who can spell it all out for you and give you the true details
Yeah.
of what's going to happen. I mean, trust but verify, right?
It's the difference between listening to what you hear on like the radio through a guru who goes an inch deep and a mile wide, and going in and visiting with someone who's going to look at your unique financial situation, ask what's important to you, what resources you have, what goals you have, what lifestyle you want to live, and giving you specific, personalized answers, and design a plan that's based off of not what a general person would need, but what you specifically need. And that's why, rather than the inch deep, mile wide, we might go a foot wide, but we're going a mile deep. We're looking at all 5 key areas of planning: income, investment, tax, healthcare, and legacy. It's really what you need to have a true, balanced, comprehensive approach to retirement.
866-295-5146. Call Stonebridge, 866-295-5146. Also available wherever you get your podcasts. Maybe you've never listened to a podcast before. We play these shows back for you. It's called The Retirement Compass, wherever you want to get a podcast. Or check out the YouTube channel. On YouTube, it is Stonebridge Wealth Systems.